Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 best ball pythons for you to start breeding. So let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about 5 of the best ball python morphs for you to get started, especially if you're new to breeding. Number 1, I'm going to say do not breed any kind of normals. If it is het for a bunch of stuff and you're going to be breeding it with a lot of other hets, that's wonderful, that's awesome, but try your best to not produce normals. It will happen, even if you breed a powerhouse to a powerhouse, you sometimes will still get normals, but you're going to really try to avoid it. Unfortunately, that is a very low-priced animal, and with super low-priced animals, people tend to not really care for them very much, or they just end up as feeders or not taken care of. So try to produce, especially if you're doing this for breeding, for your love of animals, make something that's at least a $50, $60 animal, even if it's something more simple like a lesser. People tend to take better care of animals that are at least a little bit more expensive. That's not always the rule, but there's so many normals out there. We need some more cool, awesome genetics rather than just some simple normals. But again, nothing against normals, but if you're going to breed, I really wouldn't recommend breeding normals. This list is solely based on what people always are asking me for. So I get asked almost every day, do you have at least 3 of these 5 animals? So number 1, you always are going to want to start with some cool recessive genes. So piebalds are one of my favorites. I'll put a bunch of different pictures of pies that we have produced. There's nothing you can't do with a pie gene, basically. You can have high whites, you can have low whites. You could do the exact same pairing 10 times in a row and the babies will always look different. For example, here's some albino pies that we produced. We're going to do them in sections of years that they produced and show how different they looked every single year. And these are the exact same mom and dad of these 3 seasons, and all of them look completely different every single time. So when you have pies, you can produce a bunch of animals that are always going to look different. Price on normal pies are normally around $275 to like $350 for male versus a female, but you can sell them for even more, or if you're starting out, sometimes you can get them for around $250, but they're just awesome to have. And the best part is they're not that expensive to make it that difficult for you to start. If you do anything, I highly recommend going and finding a female pied, because generally, once they're over 1,000 grams, they're worth a lot more money. Males always stay on the lower end, but females, once they're over 1,000 grams, over 1,500 grams, really build on price. So that's one of the smartest ways, especially if you're newer to this, to be able to breed things successfully. And even if you don't end up liking breeding and you end up getting out of it, you will still at least make some money back. It's not all about money, but you want to be financially conscious on what you're buying and what you can actually produce with what you have. Let's say you just start off with 2 normal female pies and 1 male pie that's a powerhouse. He's got 3, 4, 5 genes in him. You breed them together, and right there you're going to make your money back plus some. So you really can't ever go wrong with starting out with some good pies. Another great thing, and it's another recessive gene, is clowns. I never really was too into clowns, and I'm just now starting to come around to it. But they're awesome, and you can really go a lot of places with clowns. Female clowns seem to really hold their price super well. Males, not so much, but same with the female pies. They really grow how much they're worth as they age. Even if you can just get your hand on a couple of females that are 100% het clown and then get yourself a good male clown that's got a few genes in them, right there again, you're already going to be making a good amount of money, and it's going to be having pretty much all higher-ish end animals, especially when you're just starting out. A real quick tip is don't go and produce a $5,000 snake your first year. The reason is nobody really knows you. It's going to be harder to get contacts, and it's kind of hard to sell that expensive of an animal. And if you don't have any reviews, you're new to morph market, you're just posting locally on a Craigslist, or you don't have a website, you don't have a few thousand followers on any of your social media, a lot of people don't feel confident spending that much money on somebody they don't know, they've never heard of, and there's no reviews. So kind of start a little bit smaller. I find it's really good right around the $100 to $500 range, especially when you're starting out, because people will spend that type of money, especially people who just want one really cool pet. If you give them the time, you're going to answer a lot of questions, but you really give them a lot of time and work with them. Normally you'll get some customers who've never even had a snake, and you'll be able to help them out and give them all the knowledge that they need, and that's a really good place to start, especially if you're new to breeding. I'm going to say start anywhere under the Blue-Eyed Lucy umbrella. That means you can start out with anything from a Russo to you could get some Mojaves, you could get some Lessers, you could just get a Blue-Eyed Lucy. I would start there and grow from it because people always want a Blue-Eyed Lucy. I can never produce enough of them every single year. And it's great to have them. It's great to be able to produce them. And it's also really nice to have a lesser and a multi-gene animal. Let's say you have a 3 or 4 gene lesser and a 3 or 4 gene Mojave. That's perfect because you breed them together. Now you're producing Blue-Eyed Lucies and some multi-gene animals, which can go for more money than just, like, let's say if you bred a lesser to a lesser and half the babies are coming out lesser. So I would always recommend make sure you're at least producing a few Blue-Eyed Lucies a year, because that, especially people who are local, at least local to where I am, always want Blue-Eyed Lucies. The best part is they could be super diverse depending on if you really like the lesser gene, you like the Mojave gene. You can go so many different ways with it and have so many different multi-gene animals that it really can't go wrong with it. And that leads me into our number 4, get a super multi-gene animal. Again, it doesn't have to be your first year of breeding, but try to produce things that have so many genes in it that you can identify. The reason why is because those are the best animals for you to be able to hold back and grow your business, grow what you're doing. If you know that animal has a 5 gene mom and a 5 gene dad, then you really can't go wrong holding back a couple of those babies to prove them out and to be able to produce some awesome multi-gene animals. The more genes, generally the more expensive the animal, and for a breeding standpoint, that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to have as many genes as possible, trying to make the best high quality animals, and so make sure you're trying to get a good variety. For example, we love the GHI gene here, so I wish all my animals had GHI, but for variety's sake, we can only have a couple, and we breed that into other animals that don't have it. And even though that's an awesome gene to work with, we also still have other types of things going on, different types of projects with different genetics, different lines. That way we're always growing and always trying to come up with the next best thing. And for number 5, just breed what you like. You really can't put a price tag on, like, let's say your favorite gene ever is yellow belly and you just like producing things like that. Sometimes you're producing pretty cheap animals, but for example, you throw that with gravel, you could be making some highways. You could be making things that make you happy and making things that sell for a good amount. The morphs I just listed are the ones that people constantly ask me about. They might not be my favorite genes, especially from a breeding standpoint, but those are things that I know will sell, and part of this business is making the people happy, breeding what they want and being able to supply the animals that they are looking for. So you kind of have to find that good balance of doing what you want and doing what other people want. So make sure you're still doing things you want, adding genes that you're super interested in, no matter how other people are reacting to it. And if you make some awesome quality animals and they're good, healthy, great genetics, sooner or later they will sell and they will work for you. But that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do videos every Wednesday, and I'll see you next Wednesday.